clap that ass. Damn, that was a loud clap. Well, we're gonna do something different today. So I saw this in Logan Paul's podcast, and I'm like, why the fuck are we not doing it?
Okay.
So it basically goes
Banging Nina? Because I wonder the same thing sometimes.
that one. There's a barrier to entry.
Okay.
That's Nina herself.
So banging supermodels.
Again, another barrier to entry, the supermodels, but that's not what I meant. So we're gonna start off by saying, welcome back, everyone, to the world's #1 podcast. Because we believe it that we are.
I'm pretty sure we're not even the world's #1 podcast in our area code.
That's still a big range. I'm pretty sure that we're not even the millionth podcast in this building.
Not with that attitude. Not with that attitude. We are, and we believe it. Welcome back, everyone, to the #1 podcast of the year.
And are you the world's greatest moderator?
Yes, absolutely. That stutter was not because I was thinking. It was more because I am the GOAT.
All right.
All right, but we could get started. I've been watching a lot of other podcasts. And so let's talk about those other podcasts a little bit. We could talk a little bit about the new Spider-Man game that's coming out. We should also talk about the Beckham documentary. It is so crazy. I'm so excited to talk to you guys about it. I don't know if you guys saw this or finished it, but it is through and through pretty awesome.
He's good.
Yeah, no, that was a good documentary. I think it was top 3 documentaries on Netflix for me.
Yeah, and I think we should wrap it up with a really nice Reddit story as well.
I don't know if it'll be nice, but it'll be a story.
I always feel like less proud of the human race after these stories.
Less proud, huh?
Less proud.
All right, so let's get started.
So wait, did you guys end up seeing that video that I sent in the group chat?
The one from that podcast about Baahubali?
Yeah, the Guilty Pleasures podcast is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so I think for those who don't know, Guilty Pleasures is a podcast by Zach from the Try Guys and a bunch of other old BuzzFeed YouTubers. I think one of them is called Kelsey. I don't know about the third person's name.
That's cute. They kept in touch.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I think they're all genuinely friends. She was actually at Zach's wedding as well.
Oh, dang, he's married. All right.
Yeah, Zach recently got married and had a whole episode over it.
I still think these Try Guys is like teenagers. It's weird thinking of them as adults.
Yeah, it was super weird when they were like all teenagers and Ned was still cheating on his wife with a producer. Yeah, it was super weird.
He's the one that had the pregnant wife on the show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, his wife has had like 2 kids, and that was his whole thing. He was a married man. That was his whole shtick. And he ended up fucking one of the producers. On that note, seeing how there's only 3 of us, I just want to promise that I will never fuck one of the producers, hence you guys.
Oh, yeah. I appreciate that.
I really appreciate that. I really needed that promise from you.
Yeah, because I know you can't resist my charm.
Not that this...
I'm going to throw up.
Not that this reduces what he did, but I agree.
100% agree with all the net stuff. I want to put that aside because this podcast is actually really interesting. So they started watching this movie called Baahubali, which is actually a big classic in India and mostly like Tollywood, but it became like a pan-India kind of a movie. It's dubbed in like 9 languages.
What do you mean by pan-India?
Pan-India is like basically all over India. Like it's a fully Indian movie instead of... Because India has like a bunch of things, right? Like they have Bollywood, they have Tollywood, they have like... Bollywood is like the Hindi film industry. Then Tollywood is like the Tamil film industry. And I think there's a couple others, but those 2 are the more prominent ones. And I don't know if you guys have seen or heard of that movie RRR. They made it to Oscars. So the director of that directed this movie. It's a 2-parter. Baahubali, the introduction, and Baahubali, the conclusion.
Not much to the imagination there.
So I know you guys have watched Baahubali with me because I forced you guys to watch it with me.
And then numerous subsequent watching viewings.
I'm sorry, you forced us? Was it you forcing me or was it me forcing you? I seem to recall this other way around. I don't know.
I think in your old age, your memory is very foggy.
Yeah, sure.
But the only thing I do recall is that we had a great fucking weekend because we watched it at the perfect time with Baahubali 1 and then Baahubali 2 coming right at its heel. But let's talk about Baahubali 1. So they had a reaction video of Baahubali 1 initially, and they got through like the whole first movie. And that kind of inspired me where we're like, we've seen this movie. We could talk about it. And I think we could also provide some insight that they probably didn't.
Even if it's something they didn't, just the movie itself is so freaking grand that I would just want to talk about it. We've all seen this movie.
Yeah, the scope of this movie. When I first watched it, I mean, not to like start it off or anything, but like when I first watched this movie, I didn't realize that I would say I'm gonna use the word Bollywood, but like Bollywood, Tollywood, wherever this falls, didn't think they had it in them to make a movie at this scale. It was an epic.
Yeah, I mean, this was my first Hollywood movie as well, and it just like, how would you describe this?
Epic. That's the only word that comes to my mind. And
I'm thinking like Lord of the Rings kind of thing, right? Like I mean, not like the same like scope and everything. Like there was an entire world built around it, like different languages and all this stuff. But like, that's the same vibe. Like you were introduced to like a kingdom and the things that are going on in there, the politics. There's like rivalries. It's like all kinds of
the whole history and lore. Yeah. And I think like the best way that we described it was
the quest for pussy.
Yeah, Baahubali, the quest for pussy, because that's what led all of this.
And it's hilarious because in that podcast, that's what they said as well. And I'm like, I've been saying this for years. Baahubali 1 is the quest for pussy, and Baahubali 2 is revenge for my father.
Yeah, and let's be real. The first one, it was like, it's kind of like the One Punch Man, right? He's the accidental hero. He just happened to stumble upon his fate, do all this stuff, and then become king.
And you have to say like,
right?
And you have to say that like the first 5 minutes of that movie were the most amazing and the most confusing, because you just see a lady carrying a baby, fighting and killing 2 guards when she has arrows in her back, and she's like, I'm gonna die. Guess I'll go in this river for protection, and then just drown while somehow holding this baby over my head the entire time.
I didn't understand how she was able to hold the baby up for, I'm gonna say 2 days, 3 days.
You guys have to. You guys can never underestimate the strength of plot armor. We always do it. And then she also gave the thumbs up when the lady or whoever grabbed the baby.
When the village people came and like saved the baby, like, oh yeah, there's a lady in like the river just underwater holding a baby. We need to get that baby. They took the baby, and she's like, all right, cool, bye,
peace out.
I feel like she should have died at some point. But was this at the bottom of the waterfall, or was this at the top still?
This was at the bottom.
Bottom? Okay.
This was at the bottom, yeah.
How the hell did she survive?
No, she came down.
No, she came from the secret entrance.
Oh, yeah. Because I was in my head. I was
she didn't fall down the waterfall.
Yeah, and I'm like, how'd she still hold that baby up?
Though I will say, given how much plot armor was thrown around this movie, I wouldn't put it past them to be like, she survived this great fall through this waterfall that's a mile high.
So like
8 miles high, probably, because it took our main character Shiva, the main protagonist of this movie, and his name, the actor's name is Prabhas. His whole goal is to basically climb up this waterfall for some reason. I don't know why. What kid decides that?
I think
what
we know.
Him? Huh? Right. And what motivated him to want to do this?
Yeah,
I think we know, right? Like you could see it like with the whole sequence of him lifting the stone thing, right? He never felt at home in this place. Like he would just go.
Also, how much of a banger was that song while he was doing it?
When he made it up, that's when the banger happened. He made it up, and then he just starts like dancing.
Well, that was more comedic relief in my mind. But dude, the music leaving it was just like a random chanting in my mind, right? Like, but yeah.
But yeah, like no, like he never felt at home there, and then he saw like a mask that came out of that somewhere, and somehow he deduced from this generic ass wooden mask that this belongs to a beautiful girl, and draws her face
in drew sand. Her face in sand.
How did he get that? It's like looking at like one of those Scream masks and being like, this definitely belongs to a beautiful woman, and drawing her face.
There are a lot of murder movies or like slasher movies that he could have been a very valuable asset in.
Yeah. And that was the only reason that he climbed this unclimbable waterfall for his people.
And the thing is, it was not that, he climbed it and he's successful. No, that led him throughout this whole big jungle that I don't know why people don't talk about, where at one point he's using this one arrow to shoot up and like a bow and arrow to shoot up and like propel himself up.
Oh yeah, we have to think about how he climbed up. It was not just like, oh yeah, rock climbing. No, my man's was on the ledge of this waterfall, pushed himself off, shot an arrow made out of twigs
in midair. Yeah.
Landed that bitch, and then he was like, yeah, I did it. And then he climbed his way up. And he's like, yo, I'm just gonna follow the stream, hopefully find the girl that dropped her mask. Knowing very well that this mask could have flown down the river like 100 miles down the line.
Yeah, it could have literally been anywhere. And he's just like, oh, I mean, I'm just gonna abandon my entire family, my village, my people.
My man's knew something though, right? Like he got up there, he finds her within like 15 minutes.
Yeah, he tracks her down, and like, how does he find her? Oh yeah, there's 50 soldiers trying to kill this girl. But then he's like, she's got it. Don't worry about it. I like my women feisty, and if they ain't feisty, I guess they should die. And then his way of courting her was fighting her, and then somehow going into a green area in the middle of this frosty mountain that they're on, giving her a full-on makeover, mind you.
It was makeup. There was literal makeup that he came out of like regular, like, and it was good makeup,
too.
Yeah,
he created it.
Where did you fucking learn how to make up? Like he put like actual like berries, crushed it with his hands, and then like literally slapped her.
Yeah, smeared it on her lips, and she's like,
perfect lipstick.
She's like, what are you doing? And it's like perfect lipstick. And then like he pretty much grabs her like pants and like changes the cloth up or whatever. And it's like, now you got a pretty sorry. And then like, like some random place he gets ink from, and he's like, now you have eyeshadow.
And throughout the movie, he's been basically giving her tattoos, right?
And then fighting her. Yeah, and like giving her tattoos and fighting her.
None of this was consensual.
Yeah, he would creep up underwater where she's like, sleeping by the banks, and then being like, haha, she's never gonna know. She's gonna think it's fish kisses. And then like just tattoos her. And when she's still fighting him throughout all of this, mind you, he's giving her a makeover.
He sounds like a maniac. And like when we say it like this, he sounds like an absolute
if you
maniac.
take a step back and realize all the stuff he's done, if any of us did this, we're in jail.
But you know who's crazier though? The girl. Because as soon as he's done with the makeover, he's like, oh look, let me turn you to a waterfall so you can see your reflection. And she sees it and she's like, oh, I'm pretty. He's giving me a makeover. Guess I'll smash.
And they did. And that's why I think it was forced. I don't know how this could be consensual.
I think it's quid pro quo, where he just like, I saved you, and I bested you, and makeover. And she's like,
She's like, he found my kink.
Yeah. Whoop my ass and give me a makeover.
But the second they fucked, she lost all her fighting abilities. Can we talk about that? She went from this fierce person to just a side character, like the hero's bitch.
Warrior to plot device.
Yeah. And I love that she dipped the night after they like had sex. As soon as the song ended, she dipped. She was gone, and then she's like back to her hideout, and we find out why people were chasing her. And it's like, oh, because of the old queen is overthrown, we need to get the throne back from the evil king. And we're like, we don't know who the fucking king is.
Cool.
Yeah, nice. And then like she gets like pretty much.
And the weird part is all of this, right? For the last 10 minutes, we've been yapping about like all the things that happened in this movie. We're not even at the 1 hour mark.
Oh, yeah.
Just imagine how wild it is. And this is a 3-hour movie, so it's a commitment. But there's so much that happens in this one movie.
Yeah.
Like we go back to the past. We understand how this whole democracy works, who his dad is.
I was not ready for a 2 to 3 hour flashback.
Yeah.
I was not ready for that.
Oh, no. And like, yeah, but like we find the reason why, like because of that little hideout thing where they give her the mission to go save the queen, which she can't because she's a plot device in this movie. So Shiva, of course, saves the day and saves everyone.
I mean, this doesn't even like kind of cover Katappa, who is our, one of the best friends / grandpa mentor.
Bro, this is all like random exposition that made no sense to us. The plot hasn't really started.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the best part was where he goes in and this king has a 50-story gold statue made out of him, which he's forcing his servants, or not servants, but like the townspeople to lift while they're slaves to lift while they're all malnourished.
Oh yeah, there's a lot more that goes on to it. I mean, we don't even know anything about the backstory. We meet the main character, Baahubali. We hear about him. He's my mans can do everything, right? And they spent the next couple hours talking about his story, and let's be real, it was just very well done overall.
And
unlike any other Bollywood or Tollywood movie I've seen up until that point.
Yeah, and mind you, like Baahubali, the one they called Baahubali, not Shiva, looked exactly like Shiva.
They were not subtle.
Yeah, it was the same actor. It was the same actor,
strong genes.
And then we were like, wait, how are they related? Because they never said that. They never said in the first movie that like, oh, these are related.
No, I
people.
think they did. They said you're their kid.
They all thought it was him. They all were worried it was him.
Oh yeah. They mentioned that like, oh yeah, are you him? And everyone's like, what the hell? But yeah, like no, my man Shiva steals the queen. When we go into this 3-hour flashback explaining like the democracy of this whole like royal family and how Baahubali, which is Shiva's dad, was the king's brother. And the lady carrying Shiva as a baby in the initial 5 minutes was the grandmother, who was the queen initially.
It's not even the real grandmother. This is like the adopted grandmother. But I mean, there's so much to talk about this movie.
Yeah.
We could like literally spend like hours talking about this and dissecting this movie. But I think we should move on and wrap this up. Like, what are your thoughts on this movie?
I think it's such a grandiose movie that like it's something you have to experience. The music, the production, just the ridiculous aspect of it, but it still pulls you in with the emotions. I definitely think this is something you need to watch, even if it's the comfort of your own home.
It's on Netflix.
Yeah, and like it's one of those things where you genuinely like, this is my first time watching a Tollywood movie, and I was genuinely surprised with like, wow, this type of content you could get from that side of the world, right? Not just Tollywood, but like in India.
Agree. Yeah, I'll go next. Like, I'm gonna say the same messaging there, right? Definitely worth watching. Definitely worth watching the first part and the second part.
I mean, how can you resist when not watching the second part? Right?
I remember we made this a tradition every year to watch this movie now, right? And every year I kind of look forward to it. And I'll say that like we learned little tidbits every time we watch it. We learn new tidbits, and yeah, I will say it's not a guilty pleasure of mine. If we were going to go off that theme, it's a straight up pleasure.
Yeah, no, I totally resonate with both of those things.
It pleases.
Yeah.
It will cut.
It will please.
Yeah, it will please.
No, I totally agree with that. Yeah, basically, I resonate with you guys as well. I think it's a great movie. I would watch it 1,000,000 times, and I could keep saying Baahubali because it's one, a really catchy name, and two, it's just a really great epic story. And I hope that because of RRR, people take Tollywood in general more seriously and watch these old movies by that same director, S.S. Rajamouli. And Baahubali 1 and Baahubali 2 are like great examples of that.
I mean, this movie was the reason I watched RRR. Like, this is what led me to this movie.
Interesting. Are there other movies that these like our few viewers can listen or listeners can watch outside of Baahubali and Baahubali 2?
I would definitely say watch Om Shanti Om, because that's a really good Bollywood movie, and it's all about how movies are made, basically set in the 70s or 90s going up to all the way in the future. It has tidbits about reincarnation and stuff like that. It's not a serious movie. It is just great fun.
Okay. That's a good one.
In that realm, if you want to look at Bollywood movies, like completely different from Baahubali, like completely like right field. Good movie, I would think, is Premam, Premam. I think it was like more of a serious movie, where like just not serious, but like uplifting movie about love and like just love throughout your life, like how love grows with you through experience from like childhood girlfriends to like actual relationships. But it shows like that Tollywood could also do the serious things. It's not just car flips, stabs, and like explosions,
Yeah. I mean, there was this Marathi movie that I saw, which is again a completely different genre in India. But basically, the whole movie, it's like a normal movie about a love story about a cute couple. They have like this Romeo Juliet thing where they can't get married to each other. And eventually, they're figured out that, hey, everything is good. They're in love. They're about to get married, or things get figured out. They walk down the streets, and out of nowhere, literally out of nowhere, a bus comes and kills them.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. That movie is also on Netflix, right? Malal.
Yeah.
Saddest movie, dude.
Saddest movie.
That train or bus coming was a genuine surprise. And the funny thing is, like, this type of stuff happens so much in Japanese culture that they actually have a name for bus that does this. It's like Buskun, like that's like, you know, or Busan, where they're like, oh, this bus is always gonna come and kill your loved ones.
Holy shit.
On the topic of loved ones dying, let's talk about Spider-Man. Like, as we know,
Uncle Ben.
Uncle Ben, like that's like a integral part of his origins, man.
Yeah.
What are we talking about, Spider-Man? Because
I thought it was the spider bite, but sure, we can go with Uncle Ben.
No, Uncle Ben has to die. Whether or not a spider bites you is optional. Like, look at Miguel O'Hara, right? No spider bite. Uncle Ben probably died.
Damn.
I gotta rewatch that movie. It comes pretty soon on Netflix, so I'm excited.
I'm actually in such a mood for the movie because I don't know if you guys know, or I don't know if you guys game as much as I do, but the second Spider-Man came out this week.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I played the first one, but I haven't played the other ones yet.
Dude, it was big. PS5 exclusive. 2.5 million copies sold on the first day.
Holy shit. Okay.
And this is a $70, $80 game.
That's gotta be some sort of record, right? Because that's 2.5 times 60. That's like, you know,
they made. I think they made
million right there.
I think they made 150 million just on the first couple of days.
Yeah, holy shit.
But yeah, long line of like games from Marvel and Sony. I think this was the best combination because this was a Marvel game, but backed by Sony and produced by Sony. The rights for the character and the lore of the character from Marvel side.
Yeah.
And then you got the like ingenuity of Sony, where you got an open world game of Spider-Man doing Spider-Man things.
Yeah, dude. I'll tell you, that was the most fun part of the first one. It's just, you're in New York doing New York things and just Spider-Man things all the way through.
Yeah. No, so the thing was that like the first game also did numbers. First game did like 2 million copies sold. The first game actually, like, I know that you played it, but the story pretty much goes of like a coming of age for Spider-Man, like Peter Parker, where he's trying to juggle his love life, his Spider-Man-ness, I guess, or spider career, and then his actual career working at Oscorp. Yep. So he goes on, stops, you know, Kingpin, puts him in jail.
Yeah.
And he's like,
that's like the first mission of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he's like, all right, you're in jail. And then you get a random character of like Mr. Negative or whatever you want to call him. That's like makes people violent. So you have to fight not just regular goons or henchmen and Mr. Negative, random motherfuckers in the street. Like New Yorkers aren't rough enough.
Yeah.
And then he has to figure out like annoying things with his girlfriend Mary Jane, like always. Like, oh my god, bitch, don't you get he's Spider-Man?
I know, and it's crazy because like she has to play all these like random, like you play her for parts, and it's like these like stealth missions, and you forget that like, oh, you're not Spider-Man, you can't just like, you know, swing into action and just like knock these people over.
So that's actually a little fun thing about the second Spider-Man game, that people had this complaint. So they changed her character a little bit. Where since like the second game, by the way, had such villains like Kraven, Venom, and like Doc Ock.
Wait, are we talking about Spider-Man 2 or are we talking about Miles Morales?
Spider-Man 2.
Okay.
So all these villains are kind of leveled up.
Yeah.
Where like Mary Jane can't do her own thing and you can't creep around no more.
Yeah.
So you know what they did? They glocked her up. they're like, you know what? Creep around, but keep that thing on you.
But,
this is all very
with the weapon.
This is all very interesting for me because as a person who doesn't game as much and loves the whole Marvel cinematic universe or just Marvel comics in general and huge fan of Spider-Man, I think this is like a very interesting take on Spider-Man. And just the whole story is just very unique.
Because it's in my opinion, it's very organic too, because they talk, like annoyingly so, but they do talk about his struggles with his personal life versus in the first game, they talked about how he had an internship at Oscorp and how he worked with Doc Ock and how, you know, just like in the Spider-Man movies, Doc Ock created a device that's going to provide free energy or sustainable and unlimited energy, but it will cost people their lives. And Spider-Man was not about it. So at the end of the day, Spider-Man had to put him in jail too. And that kind of continues with the second one where he's like, in the second one, it's literally a couple of years from the first Spider-Man game, skipping over the Miles Morales game, where he just like, oh yeah, everything that I had personal fell apart in my life.
I will say the first one ended with us finding out about Miles and like his powers, right? Like that was the whole thing. And so I wonder if like I haven't played the second one, so maybe the second one's like his origin story and then the second one ends at that same moment, and then they continue the story together.
Yeah, so the second one, like Spider-Man Miles Morales, was another game that was exclusive to PS5. Well, the first Spider-Man came out on PS4. And what ended up happening was you got the origin story for Miles Morales. You had his own little missions. You had his own villains and everything. But then the second game that just came out, what they did is like they kind of showed Miles and Peter's relationship growing, and them working together, and just they made, and the cool thing was they made it like a co-op game as sorts, where you could play as Miles. You could even at some point play as Venom, like like when Venom and Spider-Man are fighting, like because Harry Osborn takes over Venom. And they kind of tease Agent Venom a little bit, where he comes out to be a good guy. But like initially when they're fighting, the Venom knocks Spider-Man the fuck out. And then what do you see? You're suddenly playing as Venom, trying to leave or escape Oscorp.
Oh, okay.
So
it's hard to do that well as a game. So it seems like they may have figured out something, because the only game that really did it right was, I think, one of the Batman games, Arkham Knight or Arkham.
Asylum.
It's one of those. It's one
yeah,
of those games,
Arkham Knights. Yeah, and I think the coolest thing for me, and I think this is why I'm so happy Sony did this game, aside from having part ownership of Spider-Man, is because they learned from their own games. Because I know when I got that PS3, the open world game was like kind of really restricted to GTA, right? Like that was their whole shtick. But PS3, they made their own Sony produced game called Infamous. I don't know if you guys ever had a chance to play that game, but
love that game.
Yeah,
one of the best games, one of the best stories ever. And it was open world. You have side missions. You could do whatever you want, interact with people. And like you could just spend hours doing whatever the hell you want. And I think they took from that and like other things that they have done. And they're like, we're going to apply this to Spider-Man. And that's what people wanted, an open world Spider-Man. And that's kind of why you could justify this 2.5 million copy opening. I think the game is amazing.
And nowadays, man, honestly, all games to some extent have to be open world, because and they have the processing power to do it now too, right? Because before, and storage capacity, because before you would have to render everything, and they would render it in real time. But it's like, now what they do is they just load up the whole map, and so you're really getting closer to things that have already been generated, which is wild. I don't understand the complexity of that, but I know it's got to be difficult.
No, but like I think what I want to stress is like the story is great. The playability of it is great. I think it's an experience. There's a reason why people are like, hey, I'm not talking to my girlfriend. Like October 20th, last day I'm going to talk to my girlfriend for a while because of football and this game.
Yeah.
Right? And that's why I just think this is a great game, and I would 100% recommend. Yeah. I'm waiting so I could get my hands on it and actually play it for a little bit.
I don't have a PS5, but I know some people who do. So maybe spend a lot more time at their place.
Yeah, that would be fun. I think this game could be interesting. I, as a non-gamer, really don't have much to talk about it. But as a person who loves just comics in general and these characters, like I've seen them growing up, all the different versions of it. So this is really cool. And maybe I'll watch the gameplay of it as a story, like as
just
a
full
movie
disclaimer. Mary Jane Watson does not get less annoying even with the gameplay. No matter what format you watch her in, except when Zendaya plays her.
Well, Zendaya can play anyone and I'll be, totally fine with it.
Yeah, she was a pretty competent MJ, right? Like not explicitly Mary Jane, but MJ, right? And I remember Kirsten Dunst, and who was the? Oh, they didn't have one. They didn't have one.
No, the Emma Stone played the other
Gwen
one.
Stacy, right?
Gwen Stacy, yeah.
But let's talk about the Beckham documentary. 4 episodes, really, all of them really great. Did you guys all watch it?
I watched it, loved it. Top 3 for me of Netflix sports documentaries, in my opinion. One thing I do have to say, 2 disclaimers, right? One, I think it would have been much better if it was a 3-parter.
Yeah, I can second that.
Yeah, I think they end of 2nd, beginning of 3rd, and a little bit of like the 4th episode fluff. And my second and biggest disclaimer, listen, I understand what the purpose of this documentary is, where it's like, look how great Beckham is, and then like they're adding some fluff and they're making him seem like this knight in shiny armor, or like this like innocent person that has never done anything wrong in his life.
I actually totally disagree with that.
I very much disagree with that. Yeah, I was actually thinking that they introduced nuance to his character, where it's like he is internationally known and he had some challenges to it, but also at the same time, like, you know, it's not always like the public shat all over him, and then it's like, well, then he did stuff to get shat on about before, right? And so I mean, I thought it was very like I agree still that 3 parts could have done it, and there was a lot of fluff, but I think it was very well put together, and you showed the rise and fall, right?
I also think, you know, at the end of episode 4, kind of thought he was an asshole. To be honest, like I was like, he's an asshole, but he's an asshole who's really good at what he does, and he knows what he wants, and might not fit the narrative or might not fit like people would want ideally, but he knew exactly what he wanted and he got that.
So I'll get into what I think and why I think the way I think in like a little bit later in this conversation. But what are your opinions?
We should go episode by episode of what we like, what we didn't like.
First of all, spoiler alert.
Oh yeah, definitely spoiler alert. Yeah. And so there's a big controversy going on right now. I don't know if you guys know that David Beckham and Victoria Beckham actually separated or something like that.
Oh wait, really?
Yeah, there were some. I heard some rumors about it. I don't know how factual that is, but what I noticed in this documentary is that, at least in the first episode, is that David kept talking about the relationship in a past tense. That might just be because they're talking about the past, or maybe my tinfoil hat is out and I'm thinking too much into it.
I think what happens is just like what the documentary tells you. There was always a great big narrative around their relationship. There's been many times where it was like, oh, they're over, they're through, or, you know, Posh wears the pants in the relationship. Like, you know, it says a lot when your football fans are going as far to say, or like thousands of people are going as far to chant, Posh Spice takes it up the arse, just while you're playing.
It's
arse. While you're playing against their team, just to tick you off.
I mean, that's what you're supposed to do. Like when there's a, you know, what's a big rivalry game, right? Like what would you say is a big rivalry game? For me, it's India versus Pakistan, right? Like there's nothing bigger than that. I would say whatever I need to say to Babar Azam or Shaheen Afridi to get out. Like I don't give a shit about them. I would. There's nothing that I'll hold back.
Yeah. So I mean, I will say I think they might still be together. I get that they're, you know, the conspiracy theories are out in full effect right now, right? And with the documentary where everything's getting picked apart. But I will say, like, that first episode, going back to that, right? It was a good introduction to him as a person. I will say I knew who David Beckham was, but I didn't know who David Beckham was.
Yeah, that's accurate.
And I knew what his, like, he was married to Posh Spice from the Spice Girls, you know. I knew about that, but I didn't know that they had a really cute and romantic love story. Like he would fly over, he would charter jets, and
he would spend a couple hours with her.
Just to spend a couple. He would drive like insane amount of hours to just for a few minutes. Like it was head over heels kind of stuff. Like I really thought it was really cute.
Yeah, the executive class version.
Yeah.
And like it gave me an insight about like his childhood, right? Like he started playing young. He got attention from everyone because of that one goal that he had from like pretty much the halfway point, and he curved that ball into the goal.
Yeah, I mean, no one had kicked it that, like no one had tried to shoot a goal from that far out, and he did it. And the whole thing was that it was the first of its type, and it opened up the game to being like not, you know, you're no longer needing to protect the goal from only like within 20, 30, 40 feet. It's now hundreds of feet apart.
Yeah, and I mean, his dad was an absolute dick to him growing up, just making him, like, you know, pushing him. Like, I think it's good dad stuff that he was always there and supported David. Nothing against the dad, but I think it was just, you need to be that hard ass on your kids if you want them to succeed in something like that.
Yeah, like to have those expectations. And then it also, like, one thing I liked is, like, we all know David Beckham because, like, not of football. It's not because of football. Like, I'm not a big football fan, but we know him as the model and persona or celebrity that he is. And they talked about like how he was one of the first to have brand deals, wear the freshest clothes. He talked about like, oh yeah, I got $20,000. I spend it on a $20,000 article of clothing. I thought it was like a jacket or something.
Can we talk about how much of a neat freak he is, though? He cleans up everything. He has everything arranged based on colors, based on just like pants are in a different compartment. He takes out his entire outfit for the week. That is like crazy. Like and he washes his dishes. He does all of this cleaning by himself.
So maybe that's what he meant. But I thought that was like a call out. Like he was like he didn't really do it. But he like said he took credit for it.
No. He does it. Like he's meticulously like even
when you look at his closet, I think is like when he was like, oh no, someone has clearly touched and something was just like not a thumb space away or something. He notices, and I think that's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I think he probably does it. Like they talk about his like humble beginnings or whatever, and then like funny thing, he calls his wife out for the opposite of that, where it's like, oh yeah, what car does your dad come? What car did
school? Or
yeah, and it was like a
was it Rolls Royce?
Rolls
Royce.
But like we think we're going away from episode 1, where it was like we see his rise to like, oh, he's now at the professional level and he's a celebrity in that professional space.
Yeah, and he was. I mean, let's be real here. He was basically a celebrity going into his first game, so it was a lot of pressure on him. Where if he didn't live up to it, that's it. It's done right there. And my man showed up game 1.
Yeah.
And then that actually brings me up to like a couple of big things that happened just in episode 1, which kind of like messed me up, right? There were 3 big things. 1, okay, love Posh, love all of this, but the relationship is cute. I was first half of the episode, I'm like, oh, this is all like really cool, cute, and I'm gonna love this. But who tells someone she is pregnant before their wedding or engagement? I think they were engaged before the biggest game of his fucking career.
Yeah, I was talking to my wife about that when I was watching. I was like, that's kind of like a jerk move. So this guy is like stressed throughout the game. And that, and that
kind of results into other stuff. But we'll get to that. But also, Glenn Hoddle.
Oh,
what the fuck that guy?
Fuck that guy.
Him so bad. Like this, he's such an asshole. What a bad coach. Like he was after David. Like did he?
I think he was a good coach. Oh, I'm on the opposite end. Like
you're thinking of Alex Ferguson. You're thinking of Alex. I think it was Alex Ferguson.
Well, are you talking about the England coach or the Manchester United coach?
Because the original the England coach was Glenn Hoddle. Right?
Hoddle, yeah.
Yeah, he was the absolute dick.
So he basically, what he did was, so first of all, he didn't like a big personality like Beckham, right? And so when he came on, you can tell you knew he was gonna be a difficult player to manage. But what happened was going into the whole thing that happened in the World Cup, where he tripped somebody, got a red card, got ejected from the game. England lost said game, and then got eliminated from the World Cup. He blamed it on him.
Oh yeah.
And so suddenly, going into the next episode, we start off by seeing the fallout of that, and basically everybody in England hated Beckham.
Yeah, there were multiple dummies with his jersey on it hanging on nooses, man.
Yeah.
Everyone hated him. And like I remember what you're talking about. It was not even he kicked someone. What happened was he was tripped. He was on the floor, like on his stomach, and he just like put his it was his fault.
It was a kick. It was
it was blatant, but it was not like
it was like he flicked his foot out to like tap the other guy,
nudge him, be like, hey,
and the other guy milked it. The other guy even admitted in the interview that he milked it. Yeah,
Flop City.
Yeah,
and then which would normally warrant a yellow card, but resulted in a red card, so he was just ejected.
It's because it was the way they described it. I don't know enough about how the carding system works, and I'm sure nobody can guess. But it's like because it was retaliatory, that was the issue, right? And let's take a moment to recognize that second episode could have been a fucking movie on its own, and it would have won some awards, man. That second episode was a fucking masterpiece.
They go so. I mean, when everyone was hating him in England, basically all of England was hating him. His mom got bullets in a letter.
Oh yeah, saying that they're gonna.
He did too. Yeah.
Yeah, that is so crazy. If my mom got bullets with my name written on it, I think I would never be able to play that sport again. I wouldn't even be able to get out of the house.
I think. Yeah, how would you show your face? Right?
Yeah,
like too stressed, much less go to a game. Like I'm glad they addressed it. It was like back then, right? There was no value attached to mental health.
Yeah,
and they can be pretty ruthless, as we saw. I mean, we saw Ted Lasso. And you can see how they do it, right? And how ridiculous that was.
Yeah.
Much, and then have it be in real life.
I mean, they dig a little deeper into his past, right? They go a lot deeper, and they're just talking about the dad is talking about how he was growing up and things like that. And that's why episode 2 is such a good episode, is because they talk about his humble beginnings.
Yeah.
And humble is not a good word to define David Beckham, because he won 92 games in a row.
Yeah, my man showed up. I will say, I think we like that episode a lot more because we are hardcore fans of non-linear storytelling, and that was the perfect example of that.
Oh yeah. Can we also talk about like how dedicated his dad was? His dad has 14 to 1500 recorded tapes of his games.
Yeah,
all of his games he has recorded.
Yeah, and I get it, like why he had to do it that way, because they described it, right? And Beckham's like, hey, I can't have you at the games because I'm not at my best. And so he's like, okay, I won't show up. But he got the tapes.
But he did like family at the games because he gave him that purpose and he gave him the pressure.
Yeah, sorry. What I meant was like, in the early, when like high school or wherever he played.
Yeah,
but you're right.
Yeah.
At the other ones, like he needed it.
He needed it. Needed is the right word for it, because I think he would just fuck up like every time. Like, there was stuff going on with Posh or stuff going on with, just his family not being there. Like, where we can talk more about it on the episode 3 when he moved to Spain. But before that, my favorite part, and this might be like a really small thing that you guys might have missed, but one of the newspapers had the best headlines on the planet. Push Posh.
Yep. I show, because so my wife and me, growing up, we were actually big Spice Girls fans, and I paused it and showed her that, and she's like, "What am I looking at?" And I'm like, "Just when you see the headline." Yeah. She's like, "What, Push Posh?"
yeah. Like they were just like, "Oh yeah, she's too fancy to push," and she's like, "Dog, I would have died if I did. I needed it." And like it was crazy because like we talk about the hate he got after the World Cup because he was ejected and his team lost, but like that was the year his wife gave birth, so his kid was getting death threats. He was getting death threats, so he was tense.
It was a weird time and I thought it was kind of beautiful how it was laid out too, and then of course they go back then into the with the kid and all that stuff, right? Is like he finds out she's pregnant at the World Cup. Okay, lots of time goes by, he's still playing his game, all that kind of stuff, and then there's a whole thing about doing I think it's called like the Fergie, where you win the treble, right? The main 3 cups or leagues with the Premier, European, and I forgot the other one is, and they talk about how his wife gave birth after he completes the treble, and the way they showed that game was incredible.
Yeah,
because he like flipped the shit. Like the Manchester United started becoming, or like his England fans started coming behind him again, and basically you saw his energy come back. And they say like, okay, like how did you handle it? And they show him kick a goal. They cut to his face.
Yeah,
he scores another goal, or like assists another goal. He cuts to his face and he shrugs. And I'm like, that was some amazing editing, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
so I loved it when they edited to his face in that episode, but all the other episodes, not a fan, because it kept just being just him.
It felt awkward.
Yeah.
So the thing
I thought they were trying to get like deeper into it, but like into his psyche, but it just didn't come through.
So the reason for that was actually that like they zoomed in on him
while
he was watching those same footages that we watched. So we get his reaction,
yeah,
which
but
I
he
think
didn't
was pretty
have
cool.
any. That was the main problem with it. He didn't have any reaction.
It gets muted when you know you're being watched that closely.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, you were saying.
No, but I think that was great. Like you see him as greatest fall, being hated, his rise, his kid, and like still getting those death threats and being focused on his kids, and then like eventually you see, oh shit, in the 3rd episode, they named him fucking captain of the World Cup team for England.
No, I think at this point he's in the 3rd episode. He's actually out of England because they lost a bunch of games in episode 2, being the captain of England. So he actually got his contract for the Spain team, and he's moving to Spain at this point.
Oh, I forget the sequence there, but I just remember like he did well. He beat Real Madrid. He beat Real Madrid, and basically he's like, hey, I forgot what the player's name was, but he's like, you come to Madrid, and then that was kind of like the directors planting the seed that he was going to go.
It was Ronaldo.
But he had a lot of issues. It was probably, I don't know who it was, but Ronaldo, Raul, somebody, right? And so basically he was like, in the next episode, he started having issues with Sir Alex. And that was the whole thing. And eventually it's just like, all right, we need him out.
I think that Sir Alex incident is like the thing that kind of got me and made me think that, like, you know, they kind of made him seem like this innocent person at all times, where everyone in that court, like in that locker room where the incident was, Sir Alex was so mad, just yelling at people, and David Beckham said "fuck off" or went off on him.
Yeah.
So Sir Alex kicked like a pile of clothes, and there was a cleat down there. So the cleat just hit him and fell back down, grazed him, right? And it was not like everyone in that court, like even his own friends, the doctor said it was not even worth a stitch. But he went out with like
couple stitches,
coverings and stitches, and making it seem like it's a big deal. And then like even in an official thing, like the medic was like, I think he's making it worse.
Yeah, he's also
So that was the rumor. That was not actually something that was like the medic was not the medic, but the people were saying that he himself to the coach, they were saying that he himself is making it worse by like playing with it and popping it open. But it wasn't like the medic saying that he was doing it. This was all like rumors. These were not like actual facts.
Like what the medic said to Sir.
Opinions.
Yeah, they're all opinions of people saying.
Yeah, and the whole thing's this, right? Like, you can't do that to in soccer. You can't do that to your manager.
Your manager can't do that to you either.
That's true. Like you can tell that was clearly an accident. But what I was saying is that retaliating, just in general, it feels like with Beckham is none of that goes well for him.
Yeah.
Right.
I think there's many instances like this where it's just like, oh no, I would never try to leave my team, or I was, you know, people were giving me a hard time, or like coaches were being hard on me and all that stuff, but I wouldn't do that. I'm just here for the love of football, and I love this team. And it's like, yeah, dude, to a certain extent you do, but are you telling me genuinely that like you were not one of the most famous people in England playing this game when people are telling you strictly stick to soccer, I don't care about your other stuff, and you're telling me you're like, you know, your head didn't get inflated? You were fucking Posh Spice in the 2000s, dude. Yeah. And you were the biggest star in England, let alone the world. People said you and your wife are behind Diane and Charles.
Yeah, but okay, I understand that. And
Diana, sorry.
I understand that, but I also feel like to a certain extent, because there's a lot more people looking at you, they're going to find anything small you do, you're going to find issues with it. So that part, I think what people never understood is you got to start separating him from him outside of the field with him inside the field. And inside the field, he wasn't inflated. He was doing his job. He was doing the passes. It wasn't that, oh, I'm going to be taking all the shots. He wasn't a dick about it. At least that's not what the documentary said, right? So I think none of the coaches were ever able to do like differentiate until I think he went to Spain, right? And then
we played a new spot altogether, and he was not good.
Oh, he was not good at it at all. Yeah.
I love that transition to Spain though, because they talk about like Real Madrid's president, like the owner of Galacticos or whatever you want to call him, and how like he was kind of just a rich man doing this as like fun, and like this was and the best way that they described him was he loves art, and this was his way of collecting art. So they were like, oh yeah, like, and they named Ronaldo and like all these other players that they had. Not
Zidane.
Yeah, not Cristiano Ronaldo, by the way, like original OG Ronaldo. And they were like, oh yeah, like this is his blah, 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 like, and whatever. And then they're like, all he needed was one more piece. And that was Michelangelo's David.
Yeah.
You know, and like, I'm like,
I forgot about that. That's dope. Yeah,
and I'm like, that's awesome. And like, that's when they talked about, like, you know, one of the Real Madrid players going up to David and be like, you play for Real Madrid? And then all these problems happened after, because he was juggling of, should I go somewhere else? But he's like, no, I would never leave my team. And conveniently, all of this happened.
Yeah, so when he left and came to Spain, I think that was a kind of a dick move on his part, because it's hard when you have two kids. Well, I think he had two kids at that time. Yeah. Moving to a different country, while Posh is like, what am I fucking supposed to do in this country? Like, I have kids. They
I
need
don't
to go to
speak the language.
School. Yeah. Well, I don't speak the language. Like, what am I supposed to do? Do you want me to move here? And he really needed that family piece for things to actually work in his career, because in the beginning he just struggled because there was nothing, you know. And then there's this whole controversy around, you know, him having an external affair. I mean, all affairs are external. But
not wrong.
Not in Alabama.
That's fair.
But yeah, fair. Basically he had an affair, and I think they just brushed over it. We never got like a resolution out of it.
They know, man, or like meaning the directors and them. I don't think they're gonna get the answer, right? It's not like this documentary is gonna be the one, because it's all unconfirmed. It's like it's presumed, right? Like all that kind of stuff, but it never was resolved. And there's no way this documentary is gonna out them. Like, I don't want to use the word out, but right, like
I think this was heavily influenced by them, where it was to their own discretion what they wanted to share, what they wanted in, or what they don't want in.
I think that's most with most documentaries, though, right? Because you got to be able to sign off and say, okay, this is a fair image of myself. Like, the example I'm going to give, not to steer too far away, is like The Crown, right?
Or the Meghan Markle documentary.
Well, no, what I was saying is The Crown is the case where the royal family was pissed, but they can't do anything about it because it's just historical and like laying out their story, right? It's a dramatization. Once you put the term documentary, docuseries attached to it, it's got to be all facts, nothing else, none of your opinion. It's got to be opinions of the people. And you can edit it in such a way that it's your opinion, but that's the limit of where you can go with that.
I agree. Yeah. But then did you know that, did you hear about that flex that he was having? Basically, I think someone was like, oh, if you and I were supposed to have like a football game, who would you be able to call? And then he's like,
oh, yeah, like
I could probably call Zidane.
With his kid, Romeo, right?
No. I think this was...
like his kid and his friends. And he was like, I'm going to bring all these like stacked people.
Yeah. He's like, I'll call Ronaldo over. I'll call Zidane.
Yeah, no, he has a pitch in his backyard that he was talking about. And his kid, Romeo, was like, hey, I want to have my friends against your friends. Who are you calling? And he's like, I will call the legends of this game that I played with.
Yeah. And
kid, you have no shot.
On my speed dial. Right? Like, oh, like, you didn't see that coming, kid?
He's like, I'll call Messi over, and you guys will be too busy taking autographs, and I'll score like 5 goals.
Yeah, right? That's all it takes. I know. I will say, like, shortly after that scene, I think the documentary started falling off for me a bit.
Same.
Right? Yeah. If I remember correctly, I think that was after. Oh no, shit! That was before all the Real Madrid stuff. Mm. Basically, after all the Madrid stuff, when he went to the LA Galaxy, that's where it fell off a little bit for me. But I will say that felt like a lot more recent in my mind, that happened more recently than I thought.
Yeah.
Or sorry, the other way. That happened a lot longer ago than I thought. And so I'm like, holy shit. But MLS, I will say, was almost nothing until Beckham showed up. That helped. And that's like the Messi effect now, right? Today.
And I don't know if you fully were able to watch this, but like I loved how they ended episode 4. I think so. I lost interest around the same time as you were mentioning when they moved to LA and stuff like that. But then from LA, they showed that Beckham Beckham's kind of done with this. He won like a couple of trophies. I think like 13 trophies or something like that in the MLS.
Yeah, I mean,
or something in American soccer.
It was a cool situation where he came in and he was still dominant. So he he put up numbers.
And he's like, all right, I mean, I think I'm done here. And he wants to dip to Italy. And Victoria's like, fuck no. I just moved from Spain.
Yeah.
I am living next to Tom Cruise.
We know the language here.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe that was before. But
actually, no.
That was
sorry.
a consideration coming in.
Sorry, no. I think I have my timeline messed up. I think what they did is Beckham is like, I'm going to retire. So they moved back to London. and they bought their house and stuff. And then once they got to London, he's like, yeah, I'm not retiring. I'm actually going to play in Italy. And Italy or France, I think I'm messing them up, but he wanted to play for one of those teams.
Yeah.
And so he basically goes to I think Italy or France, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna play for a couple of years. So I think he plays, and then he sees himself being like, he's slowing down. He's not, not doing great. So he's like, okay, finally I'll do retirement. And they actually won that cup. And the day they won the cup, they put him in the last 10 minutes of the game. And finally, he's like, I'm done with the game. Retired. And then we cut to him being at home, which is, his home's beautiful and simple at the same time. And you could see him cleaning up after everyone again, because his OCD kind of just kicks in. And it was just great because you see him in his element. He looks like a retired dad. And then they're like, oh, what do you do now? And he's like, well, I still own the Miami team. So he's like, oh, when did you start doing that? Like, I don't think he owns it, but I think he's like a part owner.
He's a part owner, yeah.
Yeah, he's a part owner. And he's like, yeah, the day I declared retirement, I went in the next day and part owned that Miami team. And it was his idea to make the nets all pink. It was his idea for a lot of the visual stuff, or like the style stuff that he was doing. So it was super cool the way it is. And then they ended it the best way they could. Romeo and Beckham just playing football. And him still schooling Romeo in football, making the bended goal.
Yeah, I think that's dope as hell, right? Because and I think that's actually really clever, because it's kind of like a soft launch for Romeo. Because Romeo, from what I know, is trying to be a soccer player. He's playing on some team. He's still young, but I think this is like, how LeBron kind of goes to Bronny James's basketball games from high school and brings his celebrity friends, so it gets more like, recognition and viewership. This is his way of being like, oh yeah. Like
my kid,
he's gonna do something.
Yeah, well, I mean, that overall, what are your thoughts on the Beckham documentary? Like post thoughts.
I think for me, ranking wise, it goes The Last Dance, Beckham, then Redeem Team. In terms of in terms of Netflix sports documentaries, I thought it was a great documentary. Do I wish it was shorter? Yes. Do I get to see depth of like his character, how he is, his relationship? Because I think Posh Spice and his relationship was kind of before my time. But I do think that this is amazing in terms of just stories, like laughter and like suspense when he's playing his games.
I agree. My my takeaway of this documentary was great. 3 episodes would have been good. You just compress 3 and 4 into 1 episode. I think you're good. I don't think they brought up like a lot of unique content in the last, I'll say, episode and a half. Could have brought it down, but I think that second episode, perfectly paced, very well done. I learned a lot more about Beckham than I thought. I knew he was one of the GOATs, but I didn't understand the why, right? Like maybe if he played now, he wouldn't be as good. He wouldn't stand out as much. But in his age and in his time, the man was, head and shoulders above everybody else.
Oh, definitely. And I think my last thoughts is, I think he is an amazing footballer. Maybe not a good husband / father, but I think he loves all like them, and I think they are his support system. Like his family is his support system, and he needs them to be the good football player that he is. And I really like the Messi cameo as well. That was I did not expect that to happen, but they did a good job with that.
I think you brought up a good point on the family person thing, right? Like he has good intentions. He may just not know how to show it, like his dad.
Yeah,
right? Like his dad was very tough on him, but the man probably loved him more than anybody.
Yeah,
his mom loved him very thoroughly too, right? It's just that like the dad was in his own way showing it.
Yeah. All right. I mean, that's all we have for today. This was a good time. I would love to take a whole day and just talk about more documentaries or TV shows or movies. For sure.
Yeah, guys, I genuinely think great episode, but I do think that we've been snubbing our viewers on like Reddit stories and what ifs. So definitely, I think next episode we're gonna focus more on the Reddits and stuff like and what ifs, just to get more reaction and tell you guys some entertaining stories that are gonna make you question your beliefs in humans.
I had a good one today too.
Yeah, unfortunately, we ran out of time, so we're gonna have to move that to the next episode. But so long. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah, and my takeaway is all of this, right? Spider-Man 2, a game that I want to play. Baahubali, dope movie. Probably will watch it again. Beckham, GOAT. And I think that, next time we'll have a good Reddit story for you guys. But thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone, for watching. Time to hit the hay.